Ah, the 90s. What a wonderful time in the world of the WWE that was. It's impossible to remember everyone from that era though, because this is when Vince McMahon thought gimmicks were the be-all and end-all and threw them at our face like the world was coming to an end. If there was any kind of job that could be linked to pro wrestling, it occurred here. Because of that, the turnover rate was just stupid. I think even I had a run at some point as a janitor. I was only about 8 years old then. What a star I would have made. Let's take a walk down memory lane, however, because I'm Simon from What Culture. This is 10 early 90s WWE superstars you totally don't remember. Number 10, Kato. You know the worst thing about Kato? He was a dude in a tag team called the Orient Express, but was actually Paul Diamond. So an American. Thankfully, WWE didn't do anything too horrific and instead hid Paul under a red mask and called him Kato, where he teamed with Pat Tanaka and actually had some decent matches with the likes of the Rockers at the 1991 Royal Rumble. Ironically, if we had gone the offensive route, we all would have remembered Kato, but instead, he was just a generic mask-wearing guy who came and went quicker than bread. Whatever that means. Number 9, Sabbath Simba. You know all those hints I just made at culturally insulting routes that the WWE could have taken if they wanted to? Well, now we're about to hit rock bottom, because in 1990 they did take Tony Atlas and they turned him into Sabbath Simba, a Ugandan tribal warrior. Worse still, his attire was horrendous as he was told to hold a shield and a spear, plus he wore a gigantic feathered headdress to the ring. The most bizarre bit was Vince McMahon was keen to mention that this was actually Tony Atlas, who had just decided to return to his ancestral homeland, and that makes it even worse. It's 1990! What do you think is happening in Africa, Vince? The gimmick was awful, and thankfully today not a lot of people talk about it. It's definitely for the best. Number 8, Damian DeMento. In October 1992, someone backstage at the WWE made the call to take Philip Theus and turn him into Damian DeMento, some sort of weird villain that came from the outer reaches of your mind. What the f***? People like to claim that kayfabe didn't die until the Attitude Era, but that's nonsense. What was anyone meant to think when they saw this clown floating his way toward the ring, pretending to be mentally disturbed? And don't get me started on his ring clothes either. To this day, I still don't know what this is meant to be. Shockingly, this never took off, and eventually Theus was let go, but honestly, this is all we could come up with? This? Wonders never cease. Number 7, Big Bully Buzek. Now fair play to Big Bully, he had a badass moustache. He was also managed by Harvey Whippleman, which you would imagine meant he was supposed to be something, but ultimately he was never more than an enhancement guy. Why he needed a manager then? You tell me. The only kind of memorable thing here was that Whippleman would walk around blowing smoke in Bully's opponents' faces, but that did nothing, because he still never won. So in short, none of this made sense, and not that surprisingly, he was out the door before long. The name alone though, what were we to expect? Big Bully Buzek was never going to be headlining WrestleMania. Number 6, the Berserker. John Nord debuted as the Viking on WWE television in 1991, complete with a stupid rallying cry because, you know, he's berserk or something. He looked silly too because Nord had to walk to the ring with a shield, a sword and a horned helmet. The whole point was that he was meant to be a dumbass savage, and he bought into this by throwing jobbers over the top rope constantly. It's just so strange. The Berserker's high point came when he went one-on-one with The Undertaker on a 1992 Superstars of Wrestling taping. Hilariously, the Viking actually tried to kill Taker here by stabbing him with his sword, but he missed and pierced the mat instead. Yep, that happened. Make of that what you will. Number 5, the Great Kabuki. The Great Kabuki was something of a revolutionary in the wrestling biz, as he was the first to spray coloured mist in the eyes of his opponents. That's kinda cool. He also made a blink and you'll miss it appearance for the WWE in the 1994 Royal Rumble. Coming in at number 22 and then followed by Lex Luger at 23, the whole appearance was pointless because Luger simply hammered Kabuki with a few clumsy strikes and then threw him over the top rope. It was about as successful as what the Warlord and Santina Marella did in the yearly Rumble. So why WWE ever brought him in the first place? Well, once again, you tell me, because I don't have the answers. Number 4, Genichiro Tenryu. Another of Mr. Fuji's warriors, Tenryu was altogether better than the Great Kabuki, but still wasn't treated as he should have been despite a superb body of work in 1989 that set the standard for all Japan Pro Wrestling in the 1990s. People love that era too, and some say it's the best ever, so he should have got some respect. In the land of WWE though, Tenryu was nothing more than comedy fodder for Regis Philbin at WrestleMania 7 because he couldn't speak English. Yeah, that sounds great. That sounds just great. He too had a Rumble affair that actually lasted 17 minutes, which was markedly better than Kabuki's, but still, Japanese guys in early 90s wrestling, or at least WWE, just not go well together at all. Number 3, Lance Cassidy. The Armstrong family weren't the luckiest. Brad Armstrong, a damn good worker, was ruined in WCW when he was lumped with the gimmick of Arachnoman. and then he got repackaged as Buzzkill, which was basically a rip-off of his own brother's act, the Road Dogg Josie James. Brother Steve fared a little better in his brief WWE stint as Lance Cassidy, but even then, he was a wildly enthusiastic babyface cowboy, and he failed to capture the imagination of anybody. It was the typical cheesy, smiling babyface who the WWE didn't even think highly enough of to put over Terry Taylor. And he was a rooster. Cassidy didn't last long when someone backstage seemed to realise this was a terrible idea, and away he went. Number 2, Jim Powers. The early 90s was a strange time for the WWE given all the controversy that came along with it, including steroid trials and the ever-looming presence of WCW. This is why you'd imagine young stallion Jim Powers was booked as a competitive singles act on TV throughout '93, even though before this he'd been nothing and had been treated like the most generic wrestler ever. He was so bland he would even celebrate the most basic offense with desperate rallying cries and wildly exaggerated fist bumps. It was like someone had told him to be the default creator wrestler from a WWE 2K game, and he pulled it off perfectly. But that also meant he was as bland as a cucumber, and then we all forgot about him soon after that. Number 1, Battle Cat. No, this isn't someone straight out of Thundercats, but was actually Dean Peters playing the role of superhero Battle Cat. Because of course, after working a few dates in the late 80s for the WWE under Brady Boone, he came back a few years later wearing a cat mask and an orange-purple singlet. How that didn't get over, I'll never know. He did get a few wins and did seem in line for somewhat of a push, because, he's a cat. But that all changed pretty quick, because, he was a cat and he was let go.
Hey guys, thanks for watching the video. Don't forget to subscribe below, and if you're looking for more content like this, then try a few things that are floating about around my ears. It might be fun. I can't promise it though, but it might be.